The laughter echoed through the crystalline halls of the Zephyrian High Council. Sound like breaking glass mixed with the chimes of a funeral bell. Admiral Kethfer's 4 eyes gleamed with malicious amusement as he addressed the assembled representatives of the Galactic Federation. Humans, he wheezed between fits of laughter, his tentacles writhing in what his species considered the ultimate expression of mirth. The hairless apes want to join our federation. They actually believe they're ready to sit among civilized species. The holographic display showed Earth's blue marble spinning slowly in the center of the chamber. Round it, the representatives of 12 different alien species watched with varying degrees of contempt and amusement. Look at them, continued Kethfer, zooming in on the planet's surface. Still fighting among themselves, still burning fossil fuels, still believing they're alone in the universe. They haven't even figured out faster-than-light travel on their own. A chittering sound came from the insectoid representative of the Thrix Collective. Perhaps we should put them out of their misery, Ambassador Zix suggested, her compound. Eyes glittering, quick orbital bombardment. Clean, efficient. No, no. Kethfer waved a dismissive tentacle. That would be too kind. Let them live with their delusions a little longer. After all, what harm could such primitive creatures possibly do to us? The laughter resumed, louder than before. None of them noticed the faint distortion in the air above their heads. A ripple so subtle it might have been mistaken for a trick of the light, but it wasn't. Chapter 1. The ghost in the machine. Captain Sarah Chen had been dead for 3 minutes and 47 seconds when the aliens started laughing. Not literally dead, of course, but according to every sensor in the Zephyrian command ship, that's exactly what she was. Dead. Gone. Non-existent. Just another piece of cosmic debris floating in the void between stars. She floated in the zero-gravity environment of the UN's Phantoms. Bridge, her dark hair drifting around her face like a black halo. The ship's quantum stealth systems hummed so quietly they were barely audible, bending light and energy around the vessel's sleek hull until it became less than a ghost. It became nothing at all. Captain whispered Lieutenant Marcus Webb from the communications station, his voice barely audible, even in the silence of the bridge. We're picking up their transmission. They're laughing at us. Sarah's jaw tightened. She'd spent the last 5 years of her life preparing for this moment. 5 years since the Zephyrian scout ships had first appeared in Earth's solar system, demanding humanity's surrender. 5 years since the world had learned they were not alone in the universe, and that their new neighbors considered them little more than insects. Patch it through, she ordered, her voice steady, despite the rage building in her chest. The bridge filled with the sound of alien laughter. Translated into something resembling human speech by the ship's advanced AI, Sarah listened to Admiral Kethfer's dismissive words, to the casual discussion of humanity's destruction, to the assumption that her species was too primitive to pose any threat. Behind her, she heard the sharp intake of breath from her crew. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's chief scientist, gripped her console so tightly her knuckles went white. Commander James Park, her second-in-command, looked like he wanted to fire every weapon they had. Steady, Sarah murmured, though her own heart was pounding. Remember why we're here? The Phantom was humanity's first and only stealth ship, built in secret using technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien probes. It was also humanity's only hope. While the aliens laughed and planned humanity's fate, Sarah and her crew of 23 had been given a simple mission: prove that humans were not the helpless primitives the galaxy believed them to be. They're moving, reported Ensign Maria Santos from the navigation station. Main fleet is breaking orbit. Looks like they're heading for the jump point. Sarah studied the tactical display. 57 alien warships, each one capable of reducing Earth to radioactive ash. The Zephyrian fleet was preparing to make the jump to the Sol system, where they would deliver humanity's ultimatum: surrender or die.
How long until they reach
Earth? Sarah asked. 48 hours, Park replied grimly. Maybe less. Sarah nodded. They'd known this moment would come. The aliens had given humanity one standard galactic year to consider their terms. That year was almost up. Well then, Sarah said, allowing herself a small smile. I suppose it's time to introduce ourselves. She pressed a button on her command chair. opening a channel to the entire ship. All hands. This is the captain. We're about to begin Operation Mirror Shield. You all know what's at stake. All know why we're here. Today we show the galaxy that humanity is not as helpless as they believe. She paused, looking around at the faces of her crew. These were the best and brightest humanity had to offer. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, and explorers who had volunteered for a mission that would likely end in their deaths. Continued, we give them a reason to fear us. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Sarah turned to her tactical officer, a young man named David Kim, whose steady hands had never failed her. "Mr. Kim," she said, "target the Zephyrian command ship. Load a full spread of quantum torpedoes." "Aye, Captain," Kim replied, his fingers dancing across his console. Torpedoes loaded and ready. Sarah took a deep breath. Once they fired, there would be no going back. The Phantom would be revealed, and the galaxy would know that humanity had teeth. "Fire," she ordered. The space around the Zephyrian fleet lit up like a star going nova. Chapter 2. The Revelation. Admiral Kethfer S. Laughter died in his throat as his flagship's shields flared to life around him. The crystalline walls of the bridge turned from clear to opaque in an instant, protective barriers slamming down as the ship's defensive systems kicked into overdrive. What he began. But his words were cut off by another explosion, this one close enough to rattle his teeth. His sensor officer's voice cracked with panic. "We're under attack." Multiple torpedo impacts on the outer hull. "It's possible," Kethfer snarled, his tentacles writhing in agitation. "There are no ships in this sector?" "Our sensors would have detected, sir," the sensor officer interrupted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm reading. Nothing. No ships. No energy signatures. Nothing." Another explosion rocked the ship, and this time Kethfer felt it in his bones. The lights flickered, and several of his bridge officers lost their footing. "Damage report," he roared. "Shield generators at 60% and falling," came the reply. "All breaches on decks 7 through 12. We're venting atmosphere." Kethfer's four eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. The attacks were coming from ... nowhere. The torpedoes seemed to materialize out of empty space, striking with surgical precision at his ship's most vulnerable points. "Ghosts," he muttered, an old superstition from his homeworld. "We're being attacked by ghosts." But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't true. Someone was out there. Someone with technology advanced enough to make their ships invisible to Zephyrian sensors. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission. Audio only." "Put it through," Kethfer ordered. The voice that filled the bridge was distinctly human, speaking in the crude tongue of the species they'd been preparing to exterminate. The ship's translator rendered it into Zephyrian, but Kethfer could hear the steel beneath the words. "Zephyrian fleet," the voice said, calm and professional. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Nations Starship Phantom. You are trespassing in human space. Withdraw immediately, or we will be forced to destroy you." Kethfer's tentacles curled in what might have been laughter if he hadn't been so terrified. "Humans? Impossible? You don't have the technology, Admiral?" The human voice interrupted. "I'm going to stop you right there. You see, we've been listening to your little council meeting. We heard what you think of us. We heard your plans." Another torpedo strike, this one directly amidships. Kethfer's flagship shuddered and listed to port. "You think we're primitive?" The human continued. "You think we're helpless? You think we're jokes? But here's the thing about humans. Admiral, we learned very quickly. And we have a saying: speak softly and carry a big stick." The tactical display suddenly lit up with new contacts. Not just one ship, but 6, 7, 10. A full squadron of human vessels, all materializing out of nowhere as their stealth systems deactivated. "You've been so focused on laughing at us," Captain Chen said, "that you never bothered to wonder what we might be capable of. That was your first mistake." Kethfer stared at the display in disbelief. The human ships were smaller than his own, but they moved with a grace and speed that should have been impossible. They flowed around his fleet like schools of fish, firing from multiple angles, always staying just out of reach of his weapons. "Your second mistake," the human continued, was assuming that just because we haven't left our solar system, we haven't been watching you, learning from you, adapting your technology to our needs. Impossible, Kethfer breathed. Our technology is centuries ahead of yours. You're barely spacefaring. Are we? The human's voice carried a note of cold amusement. Admiral, let me tell you a story. 75 years ago, we humans figured out how to split the atom. Within 2 years, we'd built weapons that could level entire cities. How we work? We don't just learn, we weaponize. Another ship in Kethfer's fleet exploded, shields overwhelmed by the precise, relentless assault of the human vessels. You want to know what we've been doing for the past 5 years? Captain Chen asked. We've been reverse engineering every piece of your technology we could get our hands on. Every probe you sent. Every piece of debris you left behind. We've been learning. Kethfer, a sensor officer, looked up from his console, his face pale. Sir, I'm detecting more ships. They're everywhere. Tactical display updated again. This time, it showed dozens of human vessels surrounding the Zephyrian fleet on all sides. They'd been there all along, hidden, waiting. You see, Admiral, Captain Chen said, there's something you need to understand about humans. We're not just survivors. We're predators. And for the past 5 years, you've been teaching us how to hunt. Kethfer's tentacles trembled as he watched his fleet being systematically dismantled. The human ships moved like nothing he'd ever seen, their weapons cutting through his shields like they were made of paper. This is impossible, he whispered. You're just humans. Yes, came the reply, and Kethfer could hear the smile in the human's voice. We're just humans, and that, Admiral, is what makes us dangerous. The last thing Kethfer saw before his ship's reactor overloaded was the sleek profile of the human vessel as it decloaked directly in front of his bridge. It was beautiful. In its way, elegant, deadly, human. Dash, 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 hash, hash. Chapter 3. The Price of Underestimation. The Galactic Federation Emergency. Council convened in a state of barely controlled panic. The holographic chamber flickered with the images of 12 species representatives, each one struggling to process the impossible reports flooding in from the Zephyrian fleet, or what was left of it. Total losses, reported General Vextar of the Caraxian Military Command, his reptilian features drawn tight with disbelief. 57 ships gone in less than 4 hours. Ambassador Zixk of the Thrix Collective clicked her mandibles nervously. The surviving escape pods all tell the same story. Invisible ships, impossible technology, humans. Spat Counselor Mordeth of the Hegemony, his crystalline form pulsing with angry red light. This is preposterous. The intelligence. Reports clearly state they are a primitive species, stone knives and bearskins. The intelligence reports, came a new voice, were wrong. The council chamber fell silent as High Admiral Sector of the Federation Navy materialized in the center of the room. His presence commanded respect and fear. In 3 centuries of service, he had never lost a battle, explained Counselor Mordeth. Demanded. Sector S' ancient eyes, pale as starlight, studied each representative in turn. 5 years ago, we detected the first Defarian probe entering the human system. What we didn't know was that the humans detected it too. They shot it down. Impossible, General Vextar interrupted. Their technology is more advanced than we assumed, Sector finished. While we were laughing at their primitive spacecraft, they were dissecting our technology, learning, adapting, improving. The holographic display at the center of the chamber changed, showing the wreckage of the Zephyrian fleet. Twisted metal and crystalline debris floated in the void, testament to the effectiveness of human weapons. They've been watching us for 5 years, Sector continued, studying our fleet movements, our communication protocols, our tactical doctrines. They knew we were coming. They were ready. Ambassador Zix's compound eyes glittered with fear. How many ships do they have? Unknown, Sector replied grimly. Our sensors can't detect them. For all we know, they could have fleets surrounding every Federation world right now. The chamber erupted in panicked chatter. Representatives began shouting over each other, demanding action, calling for immediate military response. suggesting everything from total war to immediate surrender. Enough. Sector S voice cut through the chaos like a blade. We have received a communication from the humans. They wish to ... negotiate. The silence that followed was deafening. Negotiate. Counselor Mordith, crystalline form pulsed with indignation. They destroyed an entire fleet. A fleet that was on its way to destroy their homeworld, Sector pointed out. From their perspective, they were defending themselves. What do they want? Asked General Vexstar. Sector S expression grew troubled. They want to join the Federation, as equals. The laughter that followed was bitter and short-lived. The irony wasn't lost on any of them. The species they'd dismissed as primitive savages had just humiliated the Federation's most powerful military force, and now they wanted to sit at the council table. They're not ready, Ambassador, Zix protested. They're still a divided species. They still fight among themselves. Still, they just defeated the Zephyrian fleet without losing a single ship. Sekta interrupted. I would say they're more ready than we assumed. Holographic display changed again, showing the sleek profile of the human stealth ship as it decloaked. Even in the recording, it was beautiful, predatory, elegant in its lethality. There's something else, Sector said quietly. The humans have sent a representative. She's waiting in the outer system. She, Counselor Mordith. S form flickered with confusion. They're sending a female to negotiate. Captain Sarah Chen, Sector confirmed. The same one who destroyed the Zephyrian fleet. She's requesting permission to address the council. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The human who had single-handedly changed the balance of power in the galaxy was asking for an audience. Sir, came a voice from the chamber's communication system. The human vessel is requesting permission to dock. Sekta looked around the chamber, studying the faces of the Federation's representatives. Fear, anger, confusion, and something else. Something that looked suspiciously like respect. Grant it, he said finally. But maintain full defensive posture. We may have underestimated them once. We won't make that mistake again. As the council session dissolved into heated discussion, none of them noticed the faint distortion in the air above their heads. A ripple so subtle it might have been mistaken for a trick of the light, but it wasn't. Hashash. Chapter 4. The negotiation captain, Sarah Chen, stood in the center of the Federation Council chamber, her hands clasped behind her. Back in a pose that would have been familiar to any military officer in human space, she wore the dark blue uniform of the United Nations Space Force, the fabric immaculate, despite the fact that she'd been living on a starship for the past 5 years. Around her, the holographic forms of 12 different alien species watched. With expressions ranging from curiosity to barely controlled hostility, she'd studied each of them extensively, learning their customs, their psychology, their weaknesses. Counselors, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Nations starship, Phantom. I come before you today, not as a conqueror, but as a representative of humanity. A representative, snarled Counselor Mordith, his crystalline form pulsing with angry red light, who just destroyed an entire fleet. Sarah turned to face him, her expression calm. A fleet that was on its way to deliver an ultimatum to my people. Surrender or die. I chose neither. You chose war, accused General Vexstar, his reptilian features twisted with rage. You attacked without provocation. Without provocation? Sarah's voice carried a note of cold amusement. General, I have recordings of your council sessions. I heard Admiral Kethfer discussing the quick orbital bombardment of my homeworld. I heard Ambassador Zix suggest putting my people out of their misery. Tell me, General, what would you call that? The chamber fell silent. Several of the counselors shifted uncomfortably, realizing that their private discussions hadn't been as private as they'd assumed. You were spying on us, Ambassador Zix chittered accusingly. We were protecting ourselves, Sarah replied. When a superior force threatens your existence, you gather intelligence. It's basic survival. High Admiral Sekta, who had been silent until now, leaned forward in his chair. Captain Chen, Your species has demonstrated capabilities that our intelligence estimates said were impossible. How? Sarah smiled, and several of the counselors felt a chill run down their spines. It wasn't a pleasant smile. Admiral, let me tell you about human nature, she said. We are, by our very biology, persistence hunters. On our homeworld, we didn't have claws or fangs or armored hides. We had endurance, we had intelligence, and we had the ability to adapt. She began to pace, her movements controlled and predatory. For 5 years we've been watching you, learning your languages, your customs, your technology. Every probe you sent, every piece of debris you left behind, every communication you broadcast, we absorbed it all. Impossible, General Vextar protested. Our technology is centuries ahead of yours. Was centuries ahead, Sarah corrected. That's the thing about humans, General. We don't just learn, we improve. We take what you've built and make it better, faster, more efficient, more deadly. The holographic display in the center of the chamber changed, showing technical schematics of human technology. Weapon systems, propulsion drives, defensive shields, all clearly based on Federation designs, but refined and enhanced beyond recognition. Your stealth technology could hide a ship from sensors, Sarah continued. Ours can hide a fleet. Your weapons could destroy a city. Ours can crack a planet. Your shields could withstand a nuclear weapon. Ours can withstand a star going nova.
You're done.
Bluffing, Counselor Mordeth accused. Though his crystalline form had dimmed to a worried orange, Sarah's smile widened. Am I? Tell me, Counselor. How many of your worlds have reported unusual sensor readings in the past year? Many of your patrol ships have detected anomalies. The silence that followed was answer enough. We've been watching you, Sarah said softly. All of you. We know your fleet dispositions, your defensive capabilities, your supply lines. We've been preparing for this moment for 5 years. This is madness, Ambassador Zixk clicked frantically. You're talking about war with the entire Federation? No, Sarah replied, her voice suddenly gentle. I'm talking about peace. I don't. Peace between equals. She stopped pacing and faced the center of the chamber. You see, counselors, there's something you need to understand about humans. We don't want to conquer you. We don't want to destroy you. We want to join you, but we won't be subjugated, won't be dismissed, and we won't be laughed at. Admiral Sekta studied her with ancient, calculating eyes. What are you proposing, Captain? Full membership in the Federation, Sarah said. Equal representation. Equal rights. Equal respect. And if we refuse, General Vextar asked. Sarah's expression grew cold. Then you'll learn what humans do to those who threaten our existence. We survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that consumed entire continents. We survived each other. We will survive you. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just a negotiation, it was a revelation. The species they dismissed as primitive had not only developed technology to rival their own, but had done so in secret under their very noses. You want us to fear you, Counselor? Mordeth said finally. I want you to respect us, Sarah corrected. Fear is just a side effect. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each counselor in turn. Gentlemen, ladies, honored beings. She said, you have a choice. You can accept humanity as partners, and together we can explore the galaxy as equals. Or you can continue to treat us as primitives and discover just how dangerous a primitive species can be when it's fighting. For its survival, the silence stretched for long moments, broken only by the hum of the chamber's systems. Finally, High Admiral Sector spoke. The Federation Council will consider your proposal, Captain Chen. But I have one question. How do we know you won't turn on us once you're inside the Federation? Sarah's smile returned, but this time it was warmer, more human. Admiral, let me tell you one more thing about humans. We're fiercely loyal to our allies. Cross us, and we'll hunt you to the ends of the galaxy. Stand with us, and we'll fight. For you with everything we have? She paused, letting that sink in. The choice is yours. Epilogue. The new paradigm. 6 months after the battle of the Zephyrian fleet. As historians would later call it, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Federation Integration Station. Aluminum windows? She could see the bustling traffic of one of the galaxy's busiest trade routes. Human ships moved among the alien vessels like they belonged there. Their sleek designs a testament to the marriage of human ingenuity and alien technology. The integration had been remarkably smooth considering the circumstances. "Penny, for your thoughts?" asked a familiar voice behind her. Sarah turned to find Dr. Elena Vasquez approaching, a steaming cup of coffee in each hand. The scientist had been promoted to Chief Technology Officer for the new Human Federation Joint Research Initiative. "Just thinking about how far we've come," Sarah replied, accepting the coffee gratefully. 6 months ago, they were planning to exterminate us. Now we're developing new technologies together. Not all of them were happy about it, Elena pointed out. "The Zephyrians are still bitter about losing their fleet. They'll get over it," Sarah said with a shrug. "Or they won't. Either way, they won't underestimate us again." Through the window, they watched as a massive human cargo vessel docked with the station. The ship was carrying the latest batch of human volunteers, scientists, engineers, artists, and explorers, eager to see what the galaxy had to offer. "Any word from Earth?" Lena asked. Sarah nodded. "The Global Council approved the colonial expansion program. We'll have our first settlement ships launching within the year, and the Phantom." Sarah's expression grew thoughtful. "Still out there, still watching. The Federation may have accepted us, but there are other powers in the galaxy.
Adder!
Threats." She took a sip of her coffee, savoring the familiar taste. It was one of the things she'd missed most during their long mission. "You know what the ironic thing is?" she said. "They were right about us. We are primitive. We are violent. We are dangerous." Elena raised an eyebrow. "How is that ironic?" Smiled, and for a moment, Elena caught a glimpse of the predator that had destroyed an entire alien fleet. "Because that's exactly what the galaxy needs," Sarah said. "A species that's too stubborn to know when it's beaten. Too curious to leave well enough alone. Too dangerous to ignore." She finished her coffee and set the cup aside. "The Federation has been stagnant for centuries," she continued. "Comfortable, complacent. They've forgotten what it means to struggle. To fight, to adapt or die. And now," Sarah's smile widened, "now they have us. And whether they realize it or not, we're going to change everything." Outside the window, a human exploration vessel fired its engines and jumped to FTL, heading for the unexplored regions of the galaxy, soon followed by another and another. Humanity was spreading to the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Elena said quietly, "What do you think we'll find out there?" Sarah turned from the window, her eyes bright with the prospect of new challenges, new enemies, new frontiers to conquer. "I don't know," she admitted. "But whatever it is, I'm sure it's going to be interesting." Behind them, the station's communication system crackled to life. "Attention all Federation vessels," came the announcement. "We are receiving distress signals from the Outer Rim. Unknown hostile forces have attacked the Centauri research station.
Ow.
All available ships are requested to respond." The galaxy was vast and full of threats the Federation had never encountered. "Looks like we're about to find out," Elena said. Sarah was already moving toward the door, her mind shifting into tactical mode. "Signal the Phantom," she ordered. "Tell them we have a new mission." As they hurried toward the command center, Sarah couldn't help but smile. The aliens had laughed at humans, dismissed them as primitive and harmless. They wouldn't make that mistake again. In the depths of space, invisible to all sensors, the UN's Phantom altered course toward the Outer Rim. Its crew was ready for whatever. They might find, after all, they were only human, and that was exactly what made them dangerous.